Imagine spending millions of dollars to build this state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Vietnam.
Oh, right. A massive investment.
Exactly. I mean, the concrete is poured, the machines are all calibrated, and you are totally ready to launch.
Best feeling in the world, right?
Yeah, until local authorities show up, inform you that your land lease is legally void, and permanently lock the doors on your operation.
Which is just a total nightmare.
It really is. Your capital is just gone, and you have zero legal recourse. So today, we're looking at exactly how foreign and domestic businesses, fall into these catastrophic traps.
Yeah, and the really intricate due diligence you need just to survive it.
Right. We have a massive stack of sources in front of us today. We've got legal analyses dissecting the sweeping 2024 land law, insider technical blueprints for property due diligence, specialized counsel for foreign direct investment, and deep dives into the hidden operational costs of commercial leases.
A lot of ground to cover.
It is. But our mission for you today is to extract the ultimate survival guide for securing commercial space in Vietnam. Whether you represent like a global corporation laying down a massive factory footprint or just a tech startup signing your very first office lease.
Yeah. Both face completely different but equally dangerous hurdles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we need to start with the macro legal shifts because, the ground beneath Vietnamese real estate literally just changed with the 2024 land law.
It absolutely did. And, to really understand why this is a seismic shift, we have to look at the mechanics of the old system first.
Right. How did it used to work?
Well, for decades, Vietnam managed its land, which, by the way, is exclusively owned by the people and administered by the state, using these rigid government land price brackets.
So the government just picked a number.
Basically, yeah. The state would look at a matrix and essentially dictate a static value for an entire region. It was this total command and control approach.
Which I'm guessing didn't always match what people were actually willing to pay.
Not at all. It was often completely detached from actual market reality, which led to massive bottlenecks for developers. But the 2024 land law abolishes those rigid brackets entirely.
Wow, just totally gone.
Totally gone. And it introduces 4 dynamic, market-based pricing methods.
Which means the state is finally valuing land based on its actual economic utility rather than just, an arbitrary administrative grid.
Exactly. It's a huge modernization step.
But how do these 4 new methods actually work in practice, like on the ground?
Well, they align Vietnam much more closely with international valuation standards. The first is the comparison method, which is pretty straightforward.
Like looking at housing comps.
Yeah, exactly that. Just evaluating the land against recent successful market transactions of similar plots.
Makes sense. What's the second one?
The second is the income method, which calculates the net income a specific piece of land can realistically generate over its entire investment lifespan.
Okay, so valuing it based on its future cash flow.
Right. But the third one, the surplus method, is where it gets highly analytical, especially for commercial developers.
Really? How so?
It calculates the potential future development value of a property, and then it subtracts the estimated construction and development costs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it allows the state to value land based on what it could be, which is unlocking a ton of stalled mega projects.
That's super smart. And the last one?
Finally, there's the adjustment coefficient method, which just applies a dynamic market multiplier to base state prices for mass valuations.
Got it. That structural modernization is just a massive green light for economic growth.
It really is.
And combining that with the new law's introduction of multi-purpose land use, where developers can legally combine, say, agricultural land with commercial ecotourism or renewable energy without fighting through years of zoning bureaucracy. You can see why foreign capital is so eager to enter.
Oh, completely. The floodgates are opening.
But our sources are flashing some serious red warning lights for foreign direct investment, or FDI, right?
Huge red lights. Because the legal mechanics of acquiring land as a foreign entity are entirely distinct from local citizens.
Right. And trying to bypass that system is exactly how you end up with those padlock factory doors we talked about.
Yes. What's fascinating here is how the Dedico law analysis frames this. They call the attempt by an FDI to lease private land directly from local citizens a money lost, disaster remains scenario.
Ouch. Money lost, disaster remains.
Yeah. Because land is administered by the state, private individuals don't hold sovereign title. They just hold land use rights.
Okay.
So under the law, a local household cannot arbitrarily transfer or lease those rights directly to a foreign enterprise outside of highly specific state-sanctioned zones.
Okay, to put a finer point on the mechanism there, leasing private land directly from an individual as a foreign investor is like buying a car without the title.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like you might hold the keys and pay for the gas,
Mhm.
but the second the authorities show up, you don't legally own the ride.
Exactly. You hold a piece of paper that the system simply does not recognize.
So what actually happens when that unauthorized contract is signed?
Well, the legal dominoes fall pretty fast. It isn't just a matter of, like, paying a fine. Because the underlying lease is legally void from its inception, the foreign business is structurally blocked from all the subsequent regulatory steps.
Which means no permits.
Right. You cannot obtain an investment registration certificate, and without that, you cannot get a construction permit.
Oh, wow. So if you actually manage to physically build a factory on that land anyway,
It is an illegal structure, period. When the inevitable government inspection occurs, the project is suspended, your investment capital can be formally revoked, and the courts will offer zero protection for your sunk costs.
so the state basically forces you into designated channels to maintain infrastructural control.
Yes, exactly.
So if you are an FDI, the legally viable route is stepping inside industrial parks, export processing zones, or economic zones.
Right, because inside those borders, the infrastructure developers have already gone through the arduous process of securing state clearance to sublease the land to foreign entities.
You're just leveraging their pre-approved legal foundation.
Precisely. And because the state really wants to incentivize heavy capital investment, these leases offer serious longevity. Standard commercial leases in these zones run up to 50 years.
50 years is a solid run.
And it gets better. If your project has massive capital requirements with a slow recovery timeline, or if it's located in, a socio-economically difficult region where the government desperately wants job creation, the state can actually extend those use rights up to 70 years.
Wow, 70 years. But, knowing you need to be in a designated zone is only the macro layer.
Right, that's just the big picture.
Because our due diligence sources, specifically the technical guides from Longfan PMT, emphasize that whether you are leasing a 50-year factory plot or just a 5-year office space in Ho Chi Minh City, verifying the specific property requires intense granular scrutiny.
Absolutely intense.
And everything begins with the LURC, the Certificate of Land Use Rights, ownership of housing, and other assets attached to land, which everybody just calls the Red Book.
Yeah, or sometimes the Pink Book, depending on when it was issued. But yes, the Red Book is the fundamental document of property legality in Vietnam. It details who holds the use rights, the exact dimensions of the land, and the approved structures on it.
Okay, wait, let me push back here. If the seller hands me a pristine, government-issued Red Book with their name on it, shouldn't that be enough? Like, why do I need to go knocking on neighbors' doors?
I get why you'd think that, but relying solely on a physical document is an inherently flawed strategy in a dynamic legal environment.
Why is that?
Because a physical piece of paper is just a snapshot in time. That paper doesn't update in real time if the local government quietly decides to rezone the neighborhood.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, which is why the Red Book is really just the starting line of due diligence. Longfan PMT breaks down 3 critical steps, and the first is verifying the planning status.
Okay, meaning what exactly?
Well, you could hold an authentic Red Book, but unbeknownst to you, the local municipality has finalized a new infrastructure plan that slates that exact plot for a new public hospital or an elevated highway.
Oh, wow. So they could just take it back.
The state has the authority to reclaim that land, yes. So if you don't independently verify the detailed construction planning status with the local Department of Natural Resources and Environment, you could sign a decade-long lease on a building that is literally scheduled for demolition in 2 years.
That is terrifying.
It happens. And even if the zoning is clear, you move to step 2, checking the dispute status.
Because disputed land can't be touched.
Exactly. Under the 2024 land law, any land embroiled in an active dispute cannot be legally transferred or leased.
But wouldn't a dispute be on the official record?
Not always. Disputes over, inheritance among siblings or aggressive boundary lines with neighbors, they are rarely stamped onto the official Red Book. They exist in the local community fabric way before they ever hit a courtroom.
So how do you even find out about them?
You have to engage with the ground-level local authority, the commune or ward people's committee. You also have to cross-reference with the people's court to ensure there's no pending litigation.
And you actually have to talk to the neighbors.
Practically speaking, yes. Consulting the local cadastral officers and adjacent property owners is essential. They hold the historical context of the land that the central database might just completely lack.
Okay, so you've confirmed the zoning, you've cleared any hidden disputes, you're good to go.
Not yet. Step 3 is the on-site inspection. You still have to reconcile the physical reality of the property with the legal schematic in the Red Book.
Meaning making sure the building matches the drawing.
Exactly. If you skip a rigorous on-site inspection, you might discover that the beautiful warehouse sitting on the property was actually built without a construction permit.
Which means it legally doesn't exist.
Right. And if you lease it, you inherit the liability of an illegal structure.
It is just a massive gauntlet of verification. But, okay, let's say you have the legal all clear. You move to the contract stage, and here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes, the financials.
Because the actual commercial lease agreement is where businesses suffer massive operational bleeding through hidden, localized costs, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The transition from legal due diligence to financial due diligence is where a lot of foreign enterprises falter, largely because they assume global leasing metrics apply identically in Vietnam.
Right, which they don't.
No. The most prominent example is the calculation of the space itself, the difference between gross leasable area and net usable area.
Okay, paying for gross leasable area, or GLA, instead of net usable area, is essentially like buying a bag of potato chips, right?
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, like you're paying for the whole bag, but half of it is just air. Or, in this case, public lobbies, corridors, and structural columns.
Exactly. It's the building's load factor.
Yeah.
So in commercial real estate, if a tenant doesn't explicitly clarify that their rent must be calculated based on the net usable area, which is the actual physical footprint where they can place desks and run operations,
Their effective cost per usable square meter will be drastically higher than their initial financial models projected.
way higher. You're paying rent on the shared elevator banks and the public restrooms.
Ouch. And once you've locked
Wow.
down the actual square meterage, you have to account for the utilities, right?
Yeah.
Which operate on a totally distinct billing mechanism driven by the environment.
Yes, the climate is a massive factor. Anyone doing business in Vietnam knows it's intensely hot and humid year-round.
Totally.
But the business impact of that climate is that landlords have to maintain massive, energy-intensive, centralized chiller systems.
Right.
So to offset that overhead, they carve out air conditioning as a separate, usage-based utility line item. It is rarely bundled into the base rent or general management fee.
Wow, so you're paying an entirely separate AC bill on top of rent.
Yeah, the Insider Guides note that a standard mid-sized office can easily absorb an extra 500,000 to 2 million Vietnamese dong per month purely in separate AC electricity surcharges.
Just for AC.
Just for AC.
Yeah.
And that assumes you only operate during standard local business hours.
Oh, right. Which is a major vulnerability for global companies. If you have a team that needs to align with, say, European or North American time zones, or you're a startup pulling late nights, you hit the overtime HVAC penalty.
Exactly. Buildings optimize their energy costs by shutting down the centralized cooling systems at like 5:00 or 6:00 p.m.
So if you need them to keep it on.
If you require the chillers to keep running for your specific floor, the landlord passes that systemic inefficiency directly to you. Overtime HVAC range from 100,000 to 500,000 dong per hour.
Per hour. Wait, really?
Per hour. It requires precise lease negotiation, maybe installing localized split AC units for server rooms or your late-night teams, just to avoid crippling utility bills.
That is wild. And the same localized logic applies to parking, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because in a city operating on millions of motorbikes, parking isn't just an amenity, it's a heavily contested resource.
Highly contested. Buildings severely limit the parking allocation per square meter leased.
So you have to pay extra.
Right. You're generally looking at a separate monthly fee of 100,000 to 300,000 dong per motorbike and a staggering 1.5 to 3.5 million dong per car.
When you scale that across a workforce, that is a massive hidden operational cost.
Oh, huge. But, beyond the monthly bleed, the lease timeline itself dictates heavy upfront capital requirements. Specifically, the fit-out and make-good clauses.
Right. Talk to me about the rent-free fit-out period.
So commercial spaces in Vietnam are typically handed over as a bare shell. You're receiving concrete floors and exposed ceilings.
You have to build the whole office yourself.
Exactly. Installing partitions, running network cables, building out pantries, and this process takes anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks.
And if you're not careful, you're paying full rent during that time.
Precisely. Tenants must aggressively negotiate a rent-free fit-out period into the contract. Otherwise, you're just bleeding premium-based rent while your space is literally an uninhabitable construction zone.
And the landlord will extract capital from you on the way out too, right? Through make good or reinstatement fees.
Yes. They require this to maintain a standardized blank slate for the next tenant.
Which means they are essentially pushing the demolition costs of your custom build-out onto your balance sheet.
Exactly. If you don't account for the cost of tearing down everything you just built, you will be hit with a massive, unbudgeted invoice at the very end of your term.
Okay, so you navigate the macro laws, you clear the Red Book hurdles, you meticulously budget for the HVAC and make good fees. Your business model is completely sound.
Perfect on paper.
Right. But what happens when the physical reality of the country intervenes? Like, we have to look at the ultimate contractual safety net, the force majeure clause.
Yes, the act of God clause.
So let me ask you, if a massive typhoon hits and my factory floods, I'm automatically off the hook for my contract obligations, right? It's an act of God.
Well, this raises an important question about how legal immunity is actually executed. And the reality is, under Vietnamese law, a natural disaster does not grant you silent automatic immunity.
Well, sounds totally out of my control.
The event itself might qualify perfectly. Article 156 of the Civil Code strictly defines a force majeure as an event that is objective, unforeseeable at the time of contract signing, and impossible to remedy despite taking all necessary and permissible measures.
Right, and a typhoon clearly hits all three criteria.
It absolutely does. However, the legal protection is locked behind a strict procedural mandate.
What kind of mandate?
Article 295 of the Commercial Law dictates that experiencing a qualifying event only gives you the right to claim an exemption. To activate that right, you must immediately notify the other party in writing about the event and its operational consequences.
Okay, so you can't just wait around. But I mean, the logic there makes perfect business sense. The immediate notification isn't just bureaucracy, right? It allows the other party, your landlord, your suppliers, your buyers, time to mitigate their own cascading losses up the supply chain.
Exactly.
Like if your factory is flooded and you wait 2 weeks while trying to pump the water out before telling your buyer that you can't ship their goods, you actively destroy their ability to source a backup supplier.
Precisely. You deprive them of the chance to mitigate risk. Therefore, you are in breach of contract.
Wow. Even though the storm wasn't your fault?
Yep. A Vietnamese court can hold you fully liable for the damages caused specifically by your delay in notification, completely nullifying the protection you would have had from the storm itself.
So you don't just get immunity, you have to earn it through immediate documented communication.
You have to act fast.
But what about scenarios that fall short of a localized natural disaster but still completely break the commercial viability of the lease?
What do you mean?
Say there is a massive geopolitical shock that collapses a specific supply chain, rendering the factory useless. The building is fine, the weather is perfect, but the business model is just annihilated.
Right.
It's not a force majeure, but enforcing the lease would bankrupt the tenant.
For those macroeconomic shocks, Vietnamese law provides a different mechanism designed to prevent systemic economic collapse. Under Article 420 of the Civil Code, parties can invoke a fundamental change of circumstances.
Okay, a hardship clause.
Exactly, commonly known as a hardship clause. This occurs when an unforeseen event creates such a massive imbalance in the contract that continuing to perform the obligations would cause catastrophic, unavoidable damage to one party.
So it effectively acts as a legal mandate to return to the negotiating table. It doesn't just dissolve the contract, but it forces both sides to acknowledge that the foundational math of their agreement no longer exists.
Exactly. It forces a good faith renegotiation. And if the parties cannot reach an amended agreement, they can petition the courts to intervene.
And what can the court do?
The court has the authority to either formally amend the terms of the contract, like perhaps adjusting the rent or extending the timeline, or terminate it entirely to ensure equitable fairness in the face of an unpredictable market shock.
That is incredibly nuanced. So what does this all mean?
It means you have to do your homework.
Truly, if you are an enterprise looking to capture the immense value of the Vietnamese market, you have to approach commercial real estate as a multi-layered discipline.
You really do.
You need the macro legal awareness to understand how the 2024 land law values property and why FDI capital must operate within designated zones.
Right. You can't just buy a plot from a local family.
Exactly. You need rigorous boots-on-the-ground due diligence to cross-reference the static Red Book with dynamic municipal planning and off-book community disputes. You need a forensic approach to lease negotiation to protect yourself from the structural load factors of net usable area and the climate-driven realities of localized utility billing.
Don't forget the AC fees.
Never forget the AC fees. And finally, you must possess the procedural discipline to actually execute your force majeure notifications the second a crisis hits.
It is a highly complex terrain, but entirely manageable if you respect the specific mechanisms of the local system.
Exactly.
However, I want to leave you with one final, incredibly provocative thought.
Well, let's hear it.
We uncovered this in the research materials from the National Scientific Conference. We have spent this entire discussion focusing on highly traditional, paper-heavy, localized verification.
Right, analyzing physical red books and consulting commune people's committees.
Yeah. But right now, there is a rapidly emerging wave of research and early implementation regarding blockchain fractional real estate investment in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. You mean the complete digital tokenization of physical land use rights?
Exactly. Chopping the ownership of a commercial building into thousands of digital tokens that can be traded globally in milliseconds.
That is wild.
It presents a fascinating collision of two entirely different paradigms. I mean, think about it. How does a highly centralized, paper-based state administration adapt to a borderless, decentralized blockchain ledger?
That's a huge question. If a property in Ho Chi Minh City is fractionalized into smart contracts owned by investors across 20 different countries, how does the local cadastral officer track who actually holds the legal use rights?
Right. How does a blockchain ledger update when the local Department of Natural Resources changes the physical zoning?
It's basically a friction point between traditional real estate law and next-generation financial technology.
And it is going to force a massive evolution in how Vietnam defines property rights.
A completely frictionless digital token trying to interface with the physical reality of a local commune committee. That is a structural tension we will absolutely have to monitor as the market continues to modernize.
It's going to be fascinating to watch.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Whether you are navigating your first international office lease or analyzing global market trends, we hope this provided a clear map through the complexities. Remember, the ultimate risk is always buried in the mechanisms of the fine print. Keep questioning everything.